About to see, the next biblical prophecy in Revelation is all about the United States' destiny. This biblical event is so important that it was also described by the prophets Jeremiah and Isaiah. Let's read Revelation 6:4. Then another horse came out, a fiery red one. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make people kill each other. To him was given a large sword. The second rider's coming will plunge the world into conflict. We know that the United States' unmatched military might has kept a period of relative peace on earth for the past decades. Interestingly, the second horseman, the bringer of global conflict, is red, the color most associated with communism. The Russian army is still known as the Red Army, while China's Communist Party has a red flag. There are few clues about who starts this global war, but there are many clues scattered within the Bible that talk about how it begins. You must understand, the holy texts of the Bible are full of metaphors and symbolism because the prophets tried to describe things that exist in the future using words available in their time. So, when the prophets saw airplanes in their visions, the descriptions would be "mount up to heaven," referring to air travel and the Air Force. Just like "it will ascend above the heights of the clouds," "it will be like the Most High," is clearly a metaphor for reaching space. The fact that both of these metaphors refer to a nation known to Bible scholars as Babylon or Mystery Babylon is no coincidence. Mystery Babylon is an end times nation. How else would it be able to have an air force and reach space? And it's described in great detail by John in the book of Revelation alongside the four horsemen, and also by the prophets Jeremiah and Isaiah. Babylon is called by the prophets a queen among nations and the lady of kingdoms. According to the prophets, Babylon reigneth over the kings of the earth because of its powerful military and is called the hammer of the whole earth. Remember how America's military might keeps the world at peace? It's all connected, and the descriptions get even more specific from now on. Babylon is the world's most powerful economy, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Moreover, the prophets say that should something happen to Babylon, all worldwide trade would stop. The merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her because no one buys their cargoes anymore. This nation is a coastal nation with deep water ports and much international trade. O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, and every shipmaster and all the company in ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea. Bear in mind that ancient Babylon, current-day Iraq, is for the most part a barren desert. Babylon has a unique and remarkable beginning, different from other nations, and has been awe-inspiring from birth. The United States is the first country to successfully become independent from a colonial empire, the British Empire. We speak the English language, and we are the descendants of the first British colonies. That is why England is like a mother to the U.S. It fits perfectly with the description in Jeremiah 50, verse 12. More so, Babylon's mother has the symbol of a lion. The royal symbol of England is a lion. The prophets also foretold that Babylon becomes proud and arrogant, and it does not consider its end. And in ancient times, Babylon was the most magnificent city in the world, just like the United States is the greatest country today. Ancient Babylon was constructed by people from all parts of the ancient world, which we may call immigrants today, just like the United States. So, what about the personification of Babylon in the scriptures as a woman? According to the book of Revelation, the woman sits atop water, has a golden cup in her right hand and a crown of 7 rays on her head. And the woman which thou sawest in that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. The United Nations reigns over all the kings of the earth and is situated in New York, the great city where you can see the Statue of Liberty. The statue is the most famous landmark in the U.S. and the symbol of Babylon the prophets are referring to. So why then are they also calling it the Whore of Babylon? The sculptor of the Statue of Liberty was Frédéric Auguste Bertholdi, a Mason belonging to the Great Masonic Lodge in Paris. Before beginning the Statue of Liberty project, Bertholdi was seeking a commission to construct a statue of the Babylonian goddess Ishtar. The Romans also adopted this fertility goddess, but they changed the name to Libertas in Latin, Liberty in English. Libertas is the mythological equivalent of Ishtar. Therefore, the Statue of Liberty is, in fact, a statue of Ishtar, the Babylonian goddess of fertility, pleasure, and sex. According to the ancient Babylonian rituals, one could only be purified of sin after intercourse with a temple priest or priestess of Ishtar. In return for this, a gift offering was needed. Ishtar was the patron mother of the temple priestesses and priests. She was the mother of what we would call prostitution today. This is why early Christians saw Ishtar, the Statue of Liberty, as the Whore of Babylon. Do you think it's just coincidence that the U.S., the home of the most magnificent and most famous statue of Ishtar, provides 70% of pornographic movies and adult entertainment to the world? Is it just another coincidence that this is the country where sexual liberation originated and spread to the rest of the world? It's not. It's just like the scriptures foretold. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. The U.S. today has the most powerful economy and military, controls worldwide commerce, is proud and arrogant, has the most developed Air Force and space program, and is the envy of the world. It is the daughter of the British Empire. It houses the Whore of Babylon. It reigns over the kings of the earth and has become the land of moral depravity. And unfortunately for every living American, Mystery Babylon. Remember how the second rider wields a great sword? Jeremiah, Isaiah, and the book of Revelation describe how Babylon will feel the fury of a terrible weapon, unlike anything the world has ever seen. This weapon will hit our entire country, and all of our defenses will be in vain. Though Babylon should mount up to heaven, and though she should fortify the height of her strength, yet the spoilers come unto her. This weapon paralyzes our military and leaves it almost defenseless. How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? The mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. Their might hath failed. The broad walls of Babylon shall be utterly broken, and her high gates shall be burned with fire. She hath given her hand. Her foundations are fallen, her walls thrown down, because the spoiler is come upon her, even upon Babylon, and her mighty men are taken. Every one of their bows is broken. And after the attack, Babylon is left silent and in darkness. Sit thou silent, and get thee into darkness, for thou shalt no more be called the Lady of Kingdoms. All three prophets tell of the fall of Babylon, the destruction of the United States of America as we know it. This is not an event that happened to ancient Babylon in the past. History has never recorded the collapse of a city or a nation in the way described by the prophets. What weapon could silence an entire continent in 1 hour? Such a terrible event was impossible until the creation of the electromagnetic pulse, or EMP. Think tanks like the EMP Commission working for the Senate have warned that this is the greatest and perhaps the only real vulnerability of the United States. Yet no administration has done anything about it. We are completely unprepared for what's coming. All it takes is one warhead to be detonated above the United States to take us back to medieval times. The lasting effects will destroy society as we know it, exactly as the scriptures predicted. Shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine. Without hospitals or pharmacies being able to function, people won't be able to take their necessary medication. Without running water, heat, and garbage disposal, diseases will break out. As cars and trucks stop running, market shelves will become empty. Desperate people will become looters, and there will be food riots. There will be no police, no law, no health care, no help. It will all descend into chaos and confusion, a complete collapse of everything we take for granted today. As the prophet Jeremiah says, "And it shall be, when thou hast made an end of reading this book, that thou shalt bind a stone to it, and cast it into the midst of Euphrates. And thou shalt say, Thus shall Babylon sink, and shall not rise from the evil that it will bring upon her." Worst of all, there will be no help coming. Without American might to keep the peace, the world will descend into war. And after this collapse of global society, the third and fourth riders will walk the earth: famine and death.